Good evening, everyone, all 10 of you. I would like to thank you all for coming out this evening to see Ottawa University's Pi Kappa Delta Forensic Club debate each other. Tonight we have Dylan, Sam, Michael, and Apura, who will be debating tonight. Our topic is, our political discourse is worse because it has gotten personal. Tonight we will have a public forum type of style of debate in which the two opponents, this is our pro side and this is our con side, arguing for the resolution and against the resolution, and they will have a friendly discussion concerning the topic. That being said, Apura, you have the floor.
Good luck, but not too much.
Good evening. First, I'd like to start off with a video. Can you all see? Yeah.
Opponents ain't playing no games. The scene is taken, we stay in your lane. It's been yapping, but what does he say? You bring the first aid and I'll bring the pain. He is in no level, flickering pain. Neither one burn like a drum as he play. Mommy thinks he wants my job, right? And I'm share. Doesn't stand a chance, gets it ever trying. Wants to be president, has to face me, dude, is never dying. I'm like a villain, you'll never catch it. Every time he talks, you know that he's so wretched.
Okay, so as you can see from the spoof of President Obama, you can tell that there wasn't a lot being said as far as politics go, as far as issues that needed to be addressed. From this video, you can see that it's not far off from what our politicians are doing today. All they're doing is personally attacking each other instead of telling us, the citizens of the United States, what we need to hear in order to make our country better. So our resolution is, our political discourse is worse because it's gotten more personal. And we agree with this statement. The way we will prove today that we agree with this statement is through our three contentions. Our first one is, the personal attacks distract from deeper issues at hand. Our second contention is that negative impact on the politicians. And our third contention is that civics is evaluated. So we shall prove today through these three contentions why we are right and why we should win. Contention number one, the personal attacks distract from deeper issues at hand. 21st century America is a society that craves intimate details about celebrities while common citizens share personal facts freely on Facebook and Twitter. It is no surprise that the handlers of our presidential candidates seek to win advantage by feeding that public fascination. There is nothing wrong with this unless biography overshadows serious discussion of policy. Obama's birth certificate is a perfect example. And another example is when they were accusing Romney of not paying his taxes. When conspiracy becomes the narrative, everyone loses. The personal attacks on the presidential candidate has often distracted the viewer from issues at hand, like healthcare, Social Security, and the oil crisis. Contention number two, negative impact on the politician. Mental energy is spent on public image and not policy. Frank Lutz, political analyst for the Washington Post, stated, whenever policy is put in people terms, that is when it succeeds. It is not just about policy, but about people. This quotation solidifies our position that political discourse has gotten worse because political parties will spend as much money that is needed in order to make their representative more personable. A national campaign ad, at minimum, can cost us $350,000 alone for a 30-second ad on one television station. And an internet ad can range from $7,000 to $10,000. As far as publicity goes, this is a great tactic, but the content and focus in these ads have gone too far. If you cross-apply the Obama's birth certificate issue that took hands, remember how much time he took from his campaign to focus on his birth certificate after a copy of his birth certificate was released to the public? Contention number three. Civics is evaporating. Simply put, people are getting stupider. This means that citizens are more focused on who the president is or what he is wearing instead of the issues and their political stance, which should be of high priority. The political discourse has covered the eyes of American citizens to base their vote on everything but the issue. Why is this? Because they simply do not know. Based on the two previous contentions, distraction of the deeper issues and saving face, these are all done at the expense of the citizen. According to the 2008 Census Bureau, voting survey topping the list of reasons for not voting was a lack of interest, 13%, or a dislike of the candidate, which was another 13%. This clearly shows how we as a nation have been almost brainwashed to focus on personality and likability instead of real and tangible issues that can improve and progress our nation. Thank you.
Today we'll be discussing the topic, our political discourse is worse because it's gotten more personal, and how the statement is clearly untrue. We hope that you can see how the political discourse is not worse because it's gotten more personal, but because it has been personal throughout history. Society has changed it and created social control over politics. We will show you how the resolution is incorrect by discussing three main concepts: negative isn't new, transparency, the need to know, and unpleasantness. Contention number 1, negative isn't new. Society has changed the way it grasps personal directives of opposing candidates, and that makes it seem worse. Personal campaigns have always encompassed our politics. In the 1790s, politicians hired professional smear makers, John Adams and President Thomas Jefferson, and they had an ugly brawl between one another. Jefferson's camp accused President Adams of having a hideous hermaphroditical character, which has neither the force and firmness of a man nor the gentleness or sensibility of a woman. In return, Adams' men called Vice President Johnson a mean-spirited, low-lived fellow, the son of a half-breed Indian squaw, sired by a Virginia mulatto father. These two statements alone shows that negativity has been present since politics first started. In 1964, the political campaign commercial between Lyndon Johnson and Barry Goldwater, the famous Democrat Daisy commercial, shows that once it started being personal and powerful, say that Goldwater could create war over love and hate, and that the stakes were too high for anyone to stay at home and vote. I'm going to show you this ad just so you can recap, and mainly it's just mainly a soundbite so you can see, so you can hear what was being said. After the criticism of Rick Santorum got personal during the Republican primaries, Ross Douthat of the New York Times said that privacy is a luxury of moral consensus. Nobody would have thought to politicize the premature birth and death of John F. Kennedy's son Patrick because abortion wasn't a polarizing issue in America of 1963. But if a white politician in the Jim Crow South had married a black woman, the relationship would inevitably have been seen as a political gesture as well as a personal decision. This shows that these kind of personal politics have been going on since the beginning of this nation. They're just focusing on different issues now. Now we'll move to contention number 2, transparency, the need to know. According to the WhiteHouse.gov, President Obama says that transparency promotes accountability and provides information for citizens about what their government is doing. Information maintained by the federal government is a national asset. As voters, you need to know what the candidates believe in, and a large portion of this finding out who they are as a person. We need to know what a president believes to know what he stands for. We need to know a candidate's history because that is the only way we can see what he will do in our future. In 2008, the McCain and Obama campaign, Americans were asked who they would rather have a beer with. In this election, Americans are being asked who they'd rather have sit down and have dinner with and their families. These are likability issues, and the likability of a candidate often has a large impact on the election. Regardless of which political party you are in, or which presidential election you pick out of the past 50 years, the winner has almost always been the most likable of the two candidates. For example, Kennedy over Nixon, Carter over Ford, Reagan over Carter, Bush first over Dukakis, Clinton over Bush first, and Bush second over Gore, and etc. The bottom line is that we want our president to be a good person, and Americans have stopped automatically trusting candidates personally. Whether this started with the Watergate ad, the Clinton Lewinsky scandal, or John Edwards allegedly using more than $1 million in political donations to his extravaganza affair, candidates now have earned the public's trust. The only way to prevent these national embarrassments from happening and to truly know who we are voting for, to be the next leader of the free world, we must know the candidates personally. Contention number 3 is unpleasantness. The political discourse hasn't gotten worse, it has just become less pleasant. We don't want to hear about the personal mistakes of those who hold in high regard because ignorance is bliss. But the fact is, ignorance doesn't help you make an informed decision. This means that the political discourse might not be as fun for everyone, but as we are learning more about the candidates, it definitely is not worse. The Seattle Post-Intelligence newspaper ran an article on May 9, 2012 that said the American people are sick and tired of dirty, negative TV spots, but vulnerable to their messages. According to a new statewide poll conducted by AARP Washington, the influential Voice for Seniors. This shows that even though the American people don't really like the style of political discourse, it is crucial in shaping their definition. Today we've examined the resolution and come to the conclusion that negative isn't new, that transparency, both politically and personally, is crucial, and that the political discourse has not gotten worse, it's just less fun. You will not be voting for abortion or gun control or the economy. You will be voting for a man who has his strengths and weaknesses. In order to truly know this man, we must examine these both politically and personally.
At this point, we will open up the floor to any questions from the audience. Also, Apre and Sam will have the opportunity to ask any questions to each other. So, could you two ladies stand up, please? In front. It doesn't matter. I'll pose the first question. This question is to Sam. Do you feel that personal attacks are necessary for political races?
Not that they're necessary, it's just that it's become adapted by society since the very beginning. It's something that we've grown used to.
Apre, how do you feel that could you elaborate on how these personal attacks make the decrease awareness for the citizens of America?
Yes, I can. According to our first contention, we said that these personal attacks are distracting from the deeper issues. So what you have is both of these candidates wasting money and wasting time on trying to make their appearance or their personality better than what they need to focus on. So for example, when they were talking about Obama and how he wasn't a citizen, Obama spent most of his campaigning trying to prove that he was a citizen or providing proof instead of people asking him, well, how do you feel about health care? Well, what do you feel about abortion and things like that, things that actually matter to our country.
Sam, what is your opinion about this being overwhelmingly important in the elections? Do you feel that it has as much of an impact as the press team is arguing?
About Obama in particular?
Just the personal attacks in general. Like, do you feel that they decrease awareness or take away from the political races and the issues?
I think that they don't decrease awareness. I think that actually seeing personal attacks makes people want to know more. And I think that in that case, people are educating themselves along with, someone sees personal attacks like, oh, well, that's interesting. Now, is that true? And that's where you can go to fact checker or you can actually look up information. It's not that anyone can really approve of it. It's just the fact that it does happen.
I just wanted to point out that in my opponent's argument, she said, one of her quotes was that people are tired of hearing the negative. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm. Dirty negative
Yeah, the
TV.
dirty negative TV. So that right there alone can show how people are getting tired of these personal attacks. And people that really want to see change or progress in the nation are tired of the personal attacks and really just want to get to know the candidate as far as what they represent and how they are going to take over and make a difference in the nation and not what their personal life are about.
I think they're tired of it because it's been happening since the 1790s. It's
Right.
not anything new. It's because since society has done it all along, people do grow tired of certain things.
Exactly, and that's why I'm saying that it's starting to increase more, that people are actually starting to speak up more about it and see that this is something that needs to change, because it's been happening for a long time and it's starting to get worse, because now, back in the day where it was only TV and radio, now we have internet, we have all these different sources of technology where they can reach out to more people, and it's just getting out of hand and it's overwhelming our citizens to where our citizens don't want to be a part of it at all.
In 1964, the Daisy ad only showed once, and now it's famous already. It only showed once because people they already were tired of it. They're already tired of the personal attacks. That's why, even though like there's no quote that says we're tired of it, people were, because it only showed once. They didn't air it anymore.
Okay, so the question is, how do you feel that this has, that if citizens are tired of it, how do you feel that do you feel that it's still like a contributing factor to the political races?
I think it does contribute to the political races, only because I think as Americans we tend to draw to the drama of anything. That's why reality TV is not so reality, but people are drawn to it because of the drama it does create.
Any other questions from the audience? No questions? All right, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
At this time, we will have Michael present his case.
You can attack your own if you want.
I can, that's good, right?
Throwing it out there.
That is allowed.
It is loud, isn't it? Alright. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. Just to start, I think what I'm going to do is go on their contentions and then go back and follow up with our contentions. So we're going to go what they said, what we said, and overview. So first, let's go with their first contention, number one. Talk about how negative isn't new. As Apurra stated briefly, that you know, it's not that it's new, but you know what, it is actually being new, because we're using now different forms of attacks now. We're using internet ads, radio ads, smaller ads, magazine ads, newspaper, which is something that you can tell in the 1960s, Twitter and Facebook was not there, nor MySpace or Xanga or any electronic social media that you can say there as well. So with that being taken into that, negatives and new, actually negative, there's now new negativity happening when it comes to electronic social networking. And then exactly, something that I have here written down is times have changed. Times have changed, so when it comes to negative isn't new, you have to take that into consideration. Their second contention was transparency, the need to know. Something here that we have to say this is what candidates believe in and who they are as a person. I believe they stated that somewhere in the middle there. Well, you have to turn this argument against them, because at this contention, at no point states that what's the exact reason why we need to know what somebody believes in. It's the right for the country as politicians should. So let me rephrase it real quick. I agree that we must know the candidates, not personally, but politically. So that's the argument against their second contention. Because again, we need to know what they stand for politically. Because they define this, they use this term as like a false assumption in their contention, saying we want a president who's a good person, in the quotations. But where's the proof? Who judges who's a good person? That's something you have to take into consideration when it comes to this debate. A good person can adopt a child, but how politically savvy are they? That's something you have to take into consideration here. And now also cross-apply the contention number one, how there's deeper issues at hand that are being lost because of this. And they also mentioned about the likability factor. What happened to Clinton? Because he was voted as the most liked president. Anybody? Okay, I thought so. How did he end up? Exactly, he ended up where? Kicked out of the White House due to likability. If people like the president, you have to take that into consideration. Once again, I keep saying that today, I don't know why. So now let's go about to the unpleasant contention. Something here is their source. When you talk about the Seattle, what was the source name mean?
The Seattle Post-Intelligence.
Seattle Post-Intelligence, okay. Something here is, this point is very generalized. It's very vague when it comes to that. And then they say that everyone claims that America is sick and tired of political discourse, which is what's stated in their case. But the fact is, though, I like political discourse. I'm not part of that generalized source that they use. So when you come up here and use a generalized source, take that into point here as well. And now something that I'm going to take here from the crossfire is, we've grown used to this, and Sammy said this, we've grown used to this, and the only way to make the attacks ad stronger is by getting more personal. Because we have grown so numb and used to all these attacks, the only way to make these issues a lot deeper and a lot more impactful is to get more personal, which goes back to the side of the pro side. And I believe that's all I have on their case, and we'll just go back and reiterate a little bit more on our case again. Remember that contention number one that we had here is the personal attacks distract from deeper issues here. We can go back to the examples of Romney not paying for his taxes or accused of that, and then people simply not voting on the fact that Obama was not a citizen. Contention number two, the negative impact on the politician. Just remember that the discourse has gotten worse because political parties have spent too much money when it comes to being more personable. And then at that point, you start seeing more attacks on the candidates. So now people are looking at, people are spending more time trying to fix what happened with their negative image instead of politics at hand. And then last but not least, it's the civics are evaporating. We're seeing people voting because of likability. And then you can also cross-apply my argument that I made about Clinton. But most importantly though, the one stat that needs to stand out here was last election, there was 13% of people who did not vote because they did not like the candidate. Again, 13% of people did not vote because they did not like the candidate. So that's the big stat here that I'm going to take from contention number 3. And with that being said, I yield the rest of my time.
Excuse me, Sandy. Okay, everybody. Hi, friends. Okay, is everybody ready to go? Start out? Okay, good. Well, I'm going to start out today by looking first at their contentions, and then coming back, reiterating ours, and answering some of the arguments that Michael had against our actual contentions. We'll start off with theirs first. Their first one was that it distracts from the big issues. Well, first off, I would just like to say, if we were to wrap all of our debates like Obama did, I'm pretty sure a lot more people would come. So Ryan, please look into that. I would love to do that every single time, because I would like to picture myself up here wrapping all of these. Okay, first one is that it distracts from the major issues. He stated that there's a public fascination with things, with these personal things. Well, we have to look at this, that they said that it distracts viewers and the issues are being discussed, but the fact here is that the personality is important in these issues. We have to look at that when we're evaluating a candidate. He brought up Bill Clinton and said, well, people like Bill Clinton and look what happened. Well, maybe if we knew more about him personally, we could have seen that coming. Because I don't know if I'm the only one who doesn't want another Clinton-Lewinsky scandal, but I'm pretty sure America agrees with me there. That wasn't a good thing. And not everyone liked him after that happened. He actually got impeached, but no big deal. So we go back to the public fascination and it distracts from the issues. Well, you can't actually say that, because as we saw in the debate last night, not one mention of Obama's birth certificate or Romney's 47% comment or the fact that Romney's a Mormon was even brought up. It was pure issues. And someone who, name anyone in this crowd who doesn't know that Obama is in favor of Obamacare, because I'm really tired of hearing of that word. And every now and then, you have to take a break from the issues, because the bottom line is, they said this here, people have a fascination with this drama. People like to hear about this, and if that's the only thing they can hear about the political spectrum, without turning it off, without turning it aside because they're not fascinated with the other side, well, at least they know something about it. And it's difficult to maintain that balance between personal and political, but that balance needs to be there. It can't all be personal, it can't all be political, and right now it's neither. It's at that balance, and we need to look at that and how that balance has to be within our political discourse. Second statement here is that it's a negative impact on the politicians, that they're spending so much money covering up for these personal attacks that they just can't run any more ads about their politics. Well, my view of this is, if they're given millions and millions of dollars each and every day in order to put out these political ads that are obviously effective because people are listening to them, and as our last quote says, let me run it by really quick, people are sick and tired of dirty negative TV spots, but vulnerable to their messages. That's the bottom line. People listen to these and people let them affect their decisions. And that is why they're necessary. If they are having an effect, if they are making political discourse different, if they're making people go and play part in their vote, then obviously they're effective and obviously they're needed. That brings us to and Obama's birth certificate. Well, the bottom line is Obama released his short-term birth certificate, which took roughly a day, and then his long-term, which took roughly a day. So he's not spending time and effort releasing these. All he has to do is hand it to New York Times, CNN, any news story would be happy to let these go for free. He doesn't have to pay to release his birth certificates. And the same Romney with tax returns. People were bugging Romney, not Obama. Other people were bugging Romney about his tax returns. Well, he lets them go, and now, it's done within a day, and that's solved. So it doesn't have a negative impact. Third is that people are getting stupider, and that the lack of interest and dislike of a candidate accounts for 13% of people not voting. Well, obviously, this shows how likability is so important. If by us getting people to like a candidate, if all this money is being spent, more people are getting out to vote. More people are going out. This 13%, if they like our candidate more, will go out there and vote. And that's the important part here, to get more people engaged within the political discourse. Definitely doesn't make it worse. It makes it a lot better. Okay, now we can move on to our arguments. We're saying that negative isn't new, that this has been going on. We brought up the situation between Jefferson and Adams, which obviously wasn't very pretty. And their argument against this was that there's new forms of negative. There's Twitter and Facebook, and that's true. But the arguments between these are vastly different. If we look at the argument, like we showed you guys a video of a child being blown up by an atomic bomb and pretty much saying, if you elect this guy, your children will be atomically bombed. That's not happening today. That's no longer happening. So I don't know how you could say it's worse when you're looking at these situations in the past. Moving on to transparency, we need to know these candidates personally in order to know what they will do politically. This has a big impact on their politics, their personal lives do. It's obvious that a person's belief is reflected in their actions, and we have to look at this link. Third goes on that he said that we had a general statement on our source there that not all Americans are tired of this person. Well, that's great. I'm glad that not all of them are tired, but it still doesn't change the fact that within the ad it says they're effective, that people listen to them, and that people make decisions based off of them, and that's why they're important here. And I'm pretty sure that answers all of their arguments. And with that, I yield the rest of my time if I have any. So, thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll open the floor. Also, some more questions. Let's attempt not to allow this questioning section to go over 4 minutes.
I have a question.
Can we ask each other's questions?
Yes,
Can I-
but Professor,
oh,
we're
okay.
going to let the audience go first, and then if there's time left, then we'll let you guys
Sounds
ask
good.
each other questions. Professor Lewis?
I just have one question. So Mexico has a law that says you can't have any negative advertising in political campaigns. And so although it made everyone happier, the people said that they didn't have a way of distinguishing the candidates. So I was wondering if you could comment, is that something that America should be going towards? Or is that something that proves bad for, I mean, because you're arguing about the negativity and whether or not it's good or bad, personally attacking, but doesn't the personal attacks help us distinguish between the candidates?
That's a wonderful question.
Thanks.
I think I'll take it. Do you mind if I take this first? Okay. I think that it's very important to look at what happened in Mexico because of this. They say that they can't distinguish between the candidates, and I think it's really important that here in America, since we only have 2 candidates running, we have to know the difference between them. And if these personal ads are the way that we do that, then obviously they need to be there.
But the people are happier. Isn't something to say for that too?
Well, people might be happier in the short run. They don't like viewing these ads.
So sorry to cut you off, but,
Oh, go ahead.
but if people are happier, that means people are more likely to go out and vote. And then you can turn the argument that people are sick and tired of hearing this negativity, and then turn that argument against his case. What's that? Well, you can take his argument and flip it and go
Flip
towards
is
ours.
the same term, but
Same thing. Go ahead. Okay, well,
Thank you.
yes. Thank you, Ryan.
Now you can ask each other questions.
Okay, hey, Jen.
Any questions from the
Wait,
audience?
Matt.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like this question is directly to Dylan because he just mentioned that there are only 2 viable candidates, and Gary Johnson is on the ballot in 48 of the 50 states and fighting to be on the final 2. And in the District of Columbia, he is polling around 6% in the nation at the moment, and is being excluded by the Commission on Presidential Debates from being a part of the debates because, for various reasons, including secret memorandums and stuff between the candidates. So my question is, would the introduction of a third-party candidate excite more people about voting and distinguish between candidates.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I think it would actually, because then once you start seeing different views on different issues, then you'll have more, it'll appeal to a bigger crowd. So then you'll have more people who be like, you know what, I may not like X, I may not like Y, but I may like the Z candidate. So just for open-mindedness and open up for people's opinions to be heard.
I personally believe that the Constitution and the way the Electoral College is set up doesn't allow for 3 parties, because no one can reach 270 if it's split among 3 candidates. But I understand where you're coming from with different points of view. I think that it actually blurs the lines a little more, because right now we see 2 distinct candidates, the conservative and the liberal. And if we go to an even further point, we have conservative, liberal, moderate, then no one's going to know what's going on. Because if people can't keep track of 2 candidates, I don't see how people can keep track of 3.
Well, my question is, if people can keep track of 2 candidates in their personal business and politics, why wouldn't they be able to keep track of a third person running in the race
Well,
in their personal business, in their politics, and all that?
well, we take from their statistic here that 13% of people aren't voting just because they lack interest, and 13 others just dislike a candidate. Well, we see this. If people aren't interested with just 2 people, imagine 3 people out there arguing with each other. Imagine 3 people constantly bagging on each other for 6 months. I don't know if I'd be able to take that. And that seems like a big problem for me.
Wouldn't that third candidate kind of diminish the 13%, at least by a little bit?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that of course is all theoretical. If we could talk to all those 13% here, that would be wonderful. But that doesn't really change the personal ads that are going on in the political spectrum today. There would actually be more with more money and more people actually going into this. It would actually make more personal ads here, bringing it back to the topic. But
Throughout the course of last fall and spring, we had 6 candidates running for the GOP nomination, and people seem to be able to keep up pretty well with their personal and their positions.
If you look at how dirty that got, though, I really don't want to see that on a national scale for 6 months. Like, if we're talking about the GOP candidates, that was a little rough. But
Michael, how would you respond to that?
What was
To his question?
The GOP candidates, there being 6 of them for several months.
it would get a little hairy, but again, you have to go back to, if there's more options for people to go for, that should be the way to go. The more the better.
This is for Dylan. The fact that you said that you wouldn't want to see that now for 6 months what happened with the GOP candidates, doesn't that mean that the personal attacks are making it worse?
no, I don't think so. I talked within my speech about the delicate balance between personal and political, and I think that as you add more people into that group, that balance gets off. That as personal ads get more and more, that balance goes away, and I think that that balance goes away. So I disagree that it would get worse. My bad.
All right, thank you all for
Okay.
that question section. At this time, we will allow for a summary from Kappa.
Okay, first I'm going to start off on just rebutting or refuting or
Any of those.
refuting your facts. Pick one. Whatever you want to call it. I'm going to attack theirs first, and then I'll talk about ours, and then I'll be done. Okay, so the first thing that they said on the first contention is that negative is new. It's not really getting worse. It's just new forms in different ways. And I want to say something that my opponent said earlier when we were having questions. She said that the Daisy ad only showed once, or it only aired one time. And this right here proves our point that that these personal attacks are getting worse, because the Daisy ad was only showed once, but now we're seeing ads on TV, we're seeing ads on the internet, and they're being played multiple times throughout multiple places all at once. It's just like a viral type of effect that's going on. The second one, their second contention, they said that personality affects politics. Yes, this is true, but there should be a balance between the two. No, it should not be a balance. It should be more political than it should be personal. You should be more focused on how can they make a change politically in our society, instead of what this person likes to eat, how this person reacts to this situation, and things like that. That's not the case. Their third contention, they said that ads are effective of getting people interested. This may be the case for those people that like drama, but if you're watching reality shows and that's scripted drama, then you have your own drama going on at home. Why would you want more drama on more drama? What this does is it complicates everything. So now, instead of you just focusing on the political views of how this person feels about this situation or that situation, or how they'll go about making Obamacare better or saving loans for students, now you're focusing on personality, how this person deals with this situation at home, or their dirt or their past or things that have happened that aren't necessarily relevant anymore to politically how they can run the country. So with that being said, I just want to go back to our first three and some of the things that they touched on. They said personality is important. And that's right, personality is important, but when it comes to politics, it's not important. What is important is the issues that they are debating on and trying to find that candidate that will work for us. The second one, they said that that the candidates are being affected by this, and that people are being drawn into the accessibility of it. They said that it didn't take that long for his birth certificate to be released or for Romney to talk about his taxes, but that's not what we were getting at as far as how long the birth certificate took. We're just talking about the constant attacks on him and constant throughout his whole presidential campaign and all of that. It was always something working about that. And then, so with that being said, I feel like you all should vote or sway our way, because the personal attacks distract from the deeper issues at hand, the negative impact on the politicians, so they have to constantly use more money to try to save face or go and talk to people to make themselves better instead of focusing on the issues or how they can make a difference. And lastly, civics is evaporating. We want educated citizens, not drama citizens that like a person on personal basis. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Sam with her summary.
Who's Sam?
All right, who's cold? Because I'm freezing. I know you're shivering the whole time. Okay, I'm going to run down the flow. Basically, I'm just going to talk about Apura's last closing 3 minutes, just because I think that's what we're trying to focus on right now. At first, though, I'd like to go over where we had the 2 to 4 minute questions for the audience, and I'd like to touch on Matt's point of a third-party candidate. My partner and I think that maybe a third-party candidate right now, being 5 weeks away from election, is not exactly close to being a reality, just because people are so focused on the candidates they've already chosen or already learning about, that bringing a third-party candidate 5 weeks before our election probably is not the best idea. Now I'm going to run through their contentions and talk about them just a little bit. Distract from issues. Let's see. A personal issue is an issue altogether. And I think that in their case, they talk about how President Obama's birth certificate was such a huge ordeal. But yet, I think that his personal ordeal with the birth certificate drew more people to look up his beliefs politically. It drew attention to him, and then again, it also drew attention to McCain because they were getting so many personal comments about Obama. People were looking up politically on McCain as well. Moving on to their second contention, that the negative impact is political. I like to talk about how she said that the energy is negative and how it's more personable and it's not that great, but personality and politically are 50-50. As my partner said, it's a balanced ordeal.
You have to stop her.
Yeah. It's a balanced ordeal in politics today. It's a balanced in our elections. I feel that I wouldn't know a whole lot about Obama personally if it wasn't for the birth certificate. I feel that I would know a lot about McCain if it wasn't for the fact that he was a war veteran, and learning certain things about a candidate draws you to him and makes you look up politically. The third contention, people are getting stupider. I like to correct this grammatically. People are getting more stupid. But the fact is that people don't know. People don't know. And it's just the fact that if they don't know, they need to look it up. And, then I would like to go back to the video that they showed in the opening of Obama rapping about personal issues with Romney. Let's see, I bet that video had probably over 1,000 views, which draws people's attention to the drama. And like we said in our quote, is that people are sick and tired of dirty and negative TV. As my partner pointed out again, they're vulnerable to those messages. And that's an important factor today, is that even though people may not like the personal aspect, they are drawn to it, and it helps them look up politically. And today I'd like you to sway to our side, just because I think that with our evidence, we've proved a lot more. Thank you.
All right, at this time, each of the two opponents left have exactly 1 minute to conclude it all up and convince the audience to vote for you. And I am stressing 1 minute. At that point, Michael, you may take the stand. Your time begins now.
All right, if there's anything you can take away from this overall debate, there's going to be 3 points that you can be taken away from this today. Sorry if I'm talking a little bit fast, but hopefully you can speak. Just kidding, no.
You just waste 2 seconds.
I know I did. Okay, number 1. The energy is spent on personal attacks rather on politics and the deeper issues at hand. You have to take that into consideration once again. Number 2, I'm going to go with, again, what Apura said. People are getting stupider, and educated voters is what's needed. You're finding people who are voting on likability. We find that over 13% of the population, people vote based on likability. What happened to Clinton? Cross-apply that argument, which was untouched. And then also, because last and foremost, I think pretty much that we need to go back and say that transparency provides accountability for information to citizens, but about the government anyways though. No, really though. People are focusing on personality rather than the deeper issues at hand. So if you take anything away from this debate, it's that.
Right on. Dylan, the floor is open to you. You have exactly.
Wait, I'm not even up here yet.
1 minute.
Okay, this is like the TV show minute.
Now.
This is like the TV show Minute to Win It, and I've been watching that a lot, so I'm
4
totally
seconds
ready.
used.
Okay, worth it. Okay, I would like to start off with 3 points why you should vote for us, and not just because we're more grammatically correct. Although you can let that sway your argument if you want to. The first argument is it's not new. It's the idea behind the resolution is it's gotten worse. Well, this hasn't gotten worse. If we look back to the past, it was much worse before now, and that really hasn't been argued today by this team. It has by this team, but not this team. Okay, going on over to the next point.
We did argue it.
Okay, they might have argued it a little, but not enough. Personal arguments are needed. We need to know what candidate we're voting for, because we're not voting on a group of issues. We're voting for a person, and that needs to be looked at. We have to see what they're like, because I don't want to vote for a jerk face. I just don't want to do it. I need to know about him personally. Last is the issues. This opens people up to look at the issues, and that is so needed in our political structure. We're not distracting from them. And with that, I cede my negative 3 seconds of time. Thank you.
And you were exactly 3 seconds over. All right.
Michael, that was fun stuff.
All right, at this time, we would like the audience to choose who you believe is the winner of this debate. So those who are in favor of the pro side, Michael and the prayer, I need you to sit on this side of the room. Let the brown chair be the divider. And if you are in favor of the con side, which is Dylan and Sam, I need you to sit on this side of the room. Feel free to move about now. You have 30 seconds.
What if we're the 13%?
Excuse me, guys. Let me come in.
What I wanted to do was ask you all these questions. I was like, okay, so would you?
Everybody at the movie?
Clayton.
Okay. Don't be swayed by threats.
Unless you really want to be, then go ahead.
Can you see the audience? Well, judging by the audience.
7.
No, I'm not voting because I didn't see every bit to make a good judgment.
Choose sides.
No, it's okay. You don't have to vote, especially since you're standing on that side.
All right. The con side, Sam and Dylan, are the winners of this debate, this friendly debate.
I'd like to say to you.
So there is no prizes, but our gratitude for you taking the time to do this. We would just like to take the time.